Welcome back to Shooting Womp Rats. I'm Daniel.
I'm Don.
Don has successfully gone through the scientific studies at the local Imperial station, and he has been determined to be clean.
Sort of. I don't know, a little bit behind the ears yet. Maybe my belly button. Nah, I'm still working on a cold, guys. I think I'm on the home stretch though. I think I'm on the mend. At least I hope so.
So do I. So, how about some news?
All right, moving along. We have Character Tuesday number 56. Moden is a Hurope, a very large species that physically matures quickly. Basically, a hulking brute standing over 2 meters tall and packed with muscle. He is only 8 years old. Now, taken years ago by the freighter captain Fix Malo, he's been systematically emotionally and physically abused by the captain, who basically takes great joy in degrading and abusing the gentle giant. Now, Moden does basically most of the cleaning and also moves freight, and even droids are treated better by the captain. Now, many have wondered why he hasn't risen up against the captain. But again, the systemic abuse and his lack of maturity both keep him in check. Now, on occasion, Fix has used Moden not only as an enforcer, but even in underground fights. I mean, having so little respect for him. Moden is currently looking for a way to escape, but he is afraid of the captain as well as being separated from the only life he has known. And I kind of like this one because this one's almost a ready-made adventure in and of itself, just like that.
Exactly. The characters can jump in and they can either arrange to help Moden escape from this issue, or even go so far as to, arrange a mutiny and bye-bye captain.
Yep, I kind of like it a lot because it also allows for, a lot of role playing. Because of a lot of the things that keep him chained or in bondage are mental and emotional ones. And so that just forces the characters or the players to seek a non-standard shoot their way out sort of outcome. So anyway, let's see. We got Rumor Wednesday number 56. I heard the Imperials have been trying to move supplies and materials into the Ant Bar region, but are having some difficulties. Apparently, they have lost several supply ships and an old Imperial 1 Star Destroyer. I heard the local Moff is trying to keep it quiet for some reason.
I heard that the Moff was actually stockpiling his own private army.
Well, I believe it was Mike Fraley had suggested that it's a Moff that's getting ready to possibly defect to the rebellion.
Yeah, even worse.
Yep, well, for the Empire at least. Yeah, maybe not for the rebellion. Maybe not for the New Republic. That'd be interesting. Put that into the New Republic setting.
Mm-hmm.
That would be really cool. Okay, we have Planet Thursday, number 56 is Tricia, which is a terrestrial planet with a light gravity, a Type 4 atmosphere which requires an environmental suit, a moderate hydrosphere of varied chemicals, and a temperature ranging from -4 to -23 above. So basically it's freezing all the time. Its surface is broken by extensive volcanic ranges. It's the homeworld of the Lipics. They have a tribal government and society. Different tribes are known to manufacture different types of goods. And the Planetary Council is established every 7 years. Numbering only 9,000, there are a number of immigrants to help sustain their export of manufactured high-tech goods. But this has also allowed for the establishment of a well-maintained stellar-class starport. So not only do you get a home world, you get a race, you get tribes, and all kinds of cool stuff on that one.
I am a huge fan of these planets because I've actually started using them in my adventures, and they work so well. This is yet another one because it provides a challenge to the players. You've got your requirement of an environmental suit, which is something players don't really think about anymore. You've got the tribal government and society, which would make for an interesting role play. And lastly, you've got this council that could be. You've got all sorts of things that could be happening in the background of this council, and the players could be all involved in a new council being put into place, or Imperial entanglements concerning this council.
Absolutely, a lot of good stuff in there. I enjoy doing the plan of the weeks. And I have yet to, I think I've only used one in one of my adventures. But then again, I've sort of been remiss. I haven't run anything in about 2 months.
Okay. I've kept off of my character of the week, at least for the rest of this month, because I'm taking part in the National November Writing Month. That's it. November Writing Month, NaNoWriMo. And it's taking up all of my attention outside of this show and the blog posts and the magazine. So, yeah, there's that.
Well, how you coming on what you're writing?
I am at, let me check this out, 15,381 words out of 50,000. So, yeah, I really have to start turning on the heat with that, too.
You know what? You need to say no.
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 There you go. No, I'm going to go do this. No, I don't want to do what you want to do.
No.
That's right. Tell the kids. No. Tell the wife. No. No.
All right, and now it's time for the all-you-can-eat Ronto buffet.
Hey, I hear they've got chocolate-covered Ronto heads, so yeah.
Exactly. Last episode, or the episode before, I posed the question about determining whether an NPC, or even a PC in this case, is lying. The player posed the question to me that if could he use perception to determine whether or not someone was lying to him in a situation. Well, Will from the Ranker Pit came back with the answer at the top of the Revised and Expanded, page 56. A player can just choose to let the GM's con roll determine how convincing the NPC is to the PC, or the player can roll the PC's perception or con opposed to the NPC con roll to attempt to determine if the NPC is lying or not. Now, that's the simple answer. The discussion actually got deeper into that, and someone even proposed a specialization for con and lie detection.
Yeah, I've had players in the past that have asked this, and I'm pretty much, if a person, okay, here's the thing you have to keep in mind. A person who is trained to detect lies, like, those people like that do lie detectors and stuff of that nature, you have to understand that, first of all, those people are trained to look for certain things. A person cannot just tell a single lie and they automatically know whether they're telling the truth or not, but usually it takes a series of questions before they can tell. Now, there are people out there that have a BS meter, if you will, where when they're talking with someone, they can almost tell immediately whether the person is telling the truth or not. Now, it's not 100%, obviously. And I think that this is best handled in the game mechanics as a special ability that's written into like a character background. I think I've shared an idea for that in previous episodes. But with this, I think that if a PC were to approach me and say, look, can I tell if this person's being honest or truthful? I think as opposed to doing I'm trying to think of what it's called, a opposed roll, I think I would just set a difficulty factor of about 18 or 20, 23, something like that, and make them roll their perception versus that. Unless, I don't know, it's sort of one of those things where each scene kind of defines itself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. How'd you handle it, Daniel?
I was flabbergasted, honestly, by the whole situation and was not sure how to go with it. It actually kind of derailed the gameplay at the time. And
if I remember, I sat in on that adventure. It didn't take a lot to get those people off the trail.
Yeah, well, that's neither here nor there. I think what I did was I think I just allowed the straight perception roll, and I didn't put it against anything. I just if the character rolled high enough, I let him get the impression that the NPC was telling the truth.
Hmm. Now, if I remember correctly, that was a person who was like he'd been fighting, they'd restrained him, and they wanted to know, hey, if we let you go, are you gonna be play nice? And he wanted to know if the guy was telling the truth, which again is one of those situations where a lot of times in real life, at least, a lot of times what happens is the person that's being restrained has no idea how they're going to react once they're let go. So I mean, they may have every intent of not pursuing a physical end to what's going on, but once they're released, they may end up doing it anyway. So, I mean, it's one of those things where even if they had made their rule, I think the game master, depending upon how much action he wanted to put in or, what he wanted to do with the scene, could have pretty much done what he wanted.
Oh yeah, and being a GM, you've got the ultimate say so with it, and that's just one of those situations that comes up where it's somewhere in the book. You can't find it. You're in the middle of a game. Why take the time out? Handle it.
Right. See, well, here's another thing where again, I do believe in the book it does allow for lie detection, perception versus con, I think. And again, depending upon the situation, if the person is not actively trying to lie or spin a tale, I don't really think again that an opposed roll is the way you should go. That it should be a target number set by the GM based upon what they feel. Like I said, 18 to 23, that range.
Mhm.
All right. Well, how about this one, Daniel? Rules for gambling outside of the rules as written.
Testuo from the Ranker Pit, he typed in a post that reads, I have a player that's just a bot player and is looking to go on a casino trip and see how he fares. He doesn't care to play it out. He just wants a nice set of rules using the gambling skill rather than playing out each individual hand with real cards. He'll be injecting story into it, and he'll randomize who the player will play against. I'm not big necessarily on the player gambling per se. I'm not going to sit there and make an impromptu game of Sabacc. I did have an adventure in my last campaign where the players were involved in a Sabacc tournament. It was a cover to help an Imperial officer defect. But I made it more about the events surrounding the game itself instead of the game itself. To me, gambling is about the risk and reward. None of the players were really gamblers, so they weren't specifically interested in winning that at all as much as they were getting the mission completed. But I surrounded them with other players that had their own quirks. One of them was an Anzati that attempted to seduce and successfully killed one of the players. Another one was a hut that was cheating. Things like that. The events that surround the gambling tournament were more of my forte instead of trying to dig through and dig up some rules concerning gambling. If you're going to take that route, to me, if you want to make it as authentic as possible, yeah, sure, try get somebody. I think there's actually people who who have made Sabacc decks. Go through them. If anything, just act out that. I know you don't want to do it, but just randomly rolling dice at a table versus doing opposed rolls, to me that's kind of tedious.
Oh yeah, I mean you're either sitting down to role play or you're playing a card game, and I don't think it's reasonable for a character or a player to expect that you're going to just stop everything so that they can do this one thing. That's something that can be handled outside of the game, and probably should, because really what it comes down to is they probably want to try this game, but they can't talk their friends into doing it, so they think they can maybe get into a role-playing session. Again, using a skill like gambling, if it's not centered to what's going on in that scene that you're running, I would definitely just make one roll, and this is what happens. Now, there are players that will sort of get sidetracked. It's like, well, the person you're trying to look for is a known Sabic player. So they go over there and they're like, well, how much money do I make? Well, okay, first of all, like with anything, the use of a skill requires a certain amount of time. And quite honestly, depending upon the game of chance that you're using. So anyway, I think that what happens is sometimes players will get kind of sidetracked. And what they have to understand is that all skills have a minimum time to use. And depending upon the game of chance that you're doing, I mean, it could be, half an hour, 2 hours of time allotted to do it. It's not just a single hand, but it's several hands, or it's several throws of the dice, not one throw of the dice. It's what your expected earnings is over a set period of time. So that's the first thing you need to do when you have your players, is explain to them, look, you know what, if you're doing this, you're doing it to make money, you're going to have to play for at least 2 hours. So you set an amount of time. Now, the second thing you need to do is to, ask the player, how much are you willing to wager? How much are you willing to lose over this set period of time? And they'll, select them out. And then you ask them, well, how are you going to play? Are you going to play aggressive? Are you going to play loose? Are you going to play tight? Are you going to play conservative? And then you give them a modifier based upon that. And then make your rolls against whatever. And then as Game Master, just kind of decide what happens. This is how I do it. I do not sit there and play, roll 5 times, for gambling. It's sort of a nebulous thing. Hopefully that helps out, Daniel. Help out at all?
It helps me out. I hope it helps Tetsuo out. Peter Lomas in our G Plus community has been posting GM cards. Now, these are cards with a little, not much in the way of flavor or fluff text. It's got stats. It's got a photo. Say, for an example, a stormtrooper. He'll have average stats for a stormtrooper. And these, so far, have been a great creation, a fan-based creation for GMs to use as a resource at the table.
Yeah, I liked them. In fact, I think I suggested to him by making them, when he gets done with his templates and stuff like that, to go ahead and make them or release them as 3x5 cards. Just a really great idea, as opposed to flipping through many books or several books. You basically just have piles of like equipment or species or templates, vehicles and stuff like that. I just thought it was a great idea. I've never really been a big one on that sort of thing at the table, but after taking a look at the cards that he's produced, again, like Daniel said, they're up in the G Plus community. It's Star Wars D6 if you want to go check that out. But they're quite nice. They look good. I like his use of font. I like his use of color. They're nifty. Go check them out.
Absolutely.
So, what's this I hear about a Tyrant class Star Destroyer or a conversion up on Ranker Pit?
Now, the conversion for this thing makes it a monstrosity, in my opinion. It's got a crew of 40,000. I think that's average for a Star Destroyer. But 60 heavy turbolaser batteries, 70 turbolaser cannons, 60 ion cannons, 12 tractor beam projectors, and 60 point defense laser cannons. Again, this thing to me is a monstrosity. I know it came from another system. I don't like this thing. And I love the Empire. I don't like this thing.
See, now, when I was doing some research for this, now I haven't pulled out the Saga books, but the only stuff I could actually find was some art that someone had done over on DeviantArt for a Tyrant class Star Destroyer, and referencing to the Tyrant the name of the tyrant is the Star Destroyer is a tyrant, but that was an Imperial Class 2 Star Destroyer. I haven't actually been able to find anything specifically referencing a Tyrant class Star Destroyer. But like I said, I haven't pulled up my my Saga edition and taken a look at it. But you know what? I mean, I've taken a look at Wikipedia, and Wikipedia, which actually takes up information from all sources, games, video games as well as Saga, D20, and all the other stuff. Even they don't list a Tyrant class Star Destroyer. So I'm sort of bamboozled on this one.
I even went so far as the posting in the Ranker Pit thread about it that it's a ton of overkill for a destroyer, and I asked what the weak point of this monstrosity was. I was told the commander, whoever commanded a tyrant, is the weak point. He or she is likely to fall for the good old quote unquote, we're just going to lamprey onto your ship and drift off together with a garbage ploy. He claims, and this is Zorn, by the way, he claims that they're dense. It's a commander ship, Panzer Jedi says, like an Executor, but not as much puffed up. It's a pocket super Star Destroyer.
Well, I thought the Executor, at least at the time of Empire Strikes Back, was a single ship. It wasn't a series of ships, but I think by Jedi they had they still only had like 2 or 3 of them, didn't they?
The only 2, I think there are 3 that I'm aware of. The first is the Executor. The second is the Lucinkaya, which was actually built on Coruscant, on the surface of Coruscant. And then I can't remember the third one. I think it was in the Wraith Squadron books, but still, at only 3 of them goes to show the scale of its power and its price.
Right. Let's see. I'm doing a quick lookup on that. Super Star Destroyer is what it was called. And let's see. Use dagger shape, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm only seeing like 2 or 3. There were not many at all. So, anyways, be that as it may, you can go ahead and add this into your game if you want to. I'll do some more looking on it to actually see if it actually really is an actual class. That's something that fell through the cracks, or if it's just something that appeared in like a blurb. But there are a set of stats that people have put together, and they are available. We'll go ahead and link that either in the blog, but it is available up on Ranker Pit in the forum section as well.
Okay, and now for the Jedi Library, where Don and I discuss a book about the system, whether it be fan-created or West End Games created. As I went through the Ranker Pit looking for things to discuss, Sierra McNeil brought up an interesting topic, the Imperial Sourcebook Sector Group Organization and how to improve it. And he posted out that while military organization has always been an area of interest for me, it isn't the most helpful with regards to plotting out adventures. Save for the squad level of the Army description, most of the units described are too powerful for a group of PCs to take on their own. From a GM's point of view, how have you used this chapter to assist your storytelling, and what would you change if you could? Now, this made me think. Maybe a trip back to the Imperial Sourcebook is going to be necessary, and maybe talk about the book a little bit while we were at it. The Imperial Sourcebook, for those of you new to it, is essentially explaining out and fleshing out the Empire. West End put a ton of work, and yeah, Peter, I'm talking to you. Great book, by the way. It takes the bad guys that we have seen from the movies, the only good movies, and gives them a structure, whereas we only saw a micro bit of the organization. To answer the question about the organization at the sector level, I came up with the idea that if you view the chapter as a grouping of many factions within a faction, you can come up with some interesting scenarios. Take, for example, maybe not the PCs facing off against, but having them be a part of the organization. A squad of stormtroopers abandoned on a planet. Or, maybe not even that. Have them be menial, like low-level engineers on something aboard a Star Destroyer that suffers an accident in hyperspace. But this is just coming from that book itself. When it comes to the sector group organization, if you look at it facing, like I've suggested, as having them be a mini faction, take, for example, there is a rivalry. You may not hear or see too much of it, but there is a rivalry between the different branches of of American armed forces. Now, I'm sure it happens all over the world, but it's home, so I'm going to use it. The Army and Marines. They strived to compete to be the best ground-based infantry forces in our nation. Same thing applies to stormtroopers and regular Army troopers. They're two different hierarchies in sector organization. The stormtroopers are expected to be elite or better than your average Army grunt, whereas your average Army grunt strives to be like a stormtrooper. And then you've got the different types of stormtrooper in themselves. Snow troopers, swamp troopers, rad troopers, space troopers. There's
saber troopers.
and
they are white, aren't they? Wonder what they're like when they're done. Are they got splotches of brown? Dirty stormtroopers.
And then you've got the ISB. You've got Compnor. These different factions an enterprising group of players, in my opinion, could take these factions and work them to their own ends. How could you improve it? To me, you can't improve the organization. The Empire in itself was so, and still is in its own way, I guess, if you want to go to Legends now, since the expanded universe is no longer canon. It's such a clunky machine that the gears barely touch. And improving upon it would change everything.
I tell you, I've looked at the Imperial source book several times, and I like it because what it does, it gives you a little bit of structure for your continued game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually put together quite well. There are little blurbs here and there that sort of explain the process of why Palpatine has organized things the way that he has and how he plays one against the other. Like, trying to remember, the ISB plays off against another intelligence branch, and how he basically sets up each branch to play against itself so that he can keep them in control, basically. So there's a lot of interesting stuff there. So, from that standpoint, if you're looking for understanding the way the Empire is put together and how it runs, to give you sort of a better idea of the Rebellion era, definitely, without a doubt, you have to have this book. Now, where it falls a bit flat, and you can sort of extrapolate data from this, is the pre-Empire and post-Endor sort of times. Those would be the ones that I would really find interesting, is if they had done something along those lines. But, of course, those weren't created or fleshed out at the time this book was printed. Which sort of takes us to the next step, because Fantasy Flight Games is supposed to have their version of this, I believe, next year or the year after, which I'm kind of trying to figure out what they're going to put in it that's not already in what we have available, or if it's just going to be a rehash of the original stuff. I don't know. Have you heard anything about that, Daniel?
I don't know about the Fantasy Flight books. However, there is it's not a role-playing book as much as it is along the lines of the technical journals and that sort of thing. It's actually a standalone book and called the Imperial Source Book.
That's right. I got that backwards. It's not a Fantasy Flight game. It is a standalone book like the Essential Guides.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
As a matter of fact, someone posted up some recruitment posters now, but to me, none of them are like the one that I've got in my revised and expanded about the Imperial Navy. You know, an adventure like this is not for everyone, and I liked it. I really can't wait to get my hands on the book or my eyes on the book. Hint, hint.
Just remember, you have to take that little plastic piece out of it, out of the book at Barnes & Noble before you walk out with it. Just so you know.
But when it comes to the role play section of it, that there's just so much. If you want to know the player's enemy, if you want to know how to act like the player's enemy, this is a good source for it. From ordnance to ships to structure to what every branch is and who is in there, you've got it here. I don't see a way to make the organization look any better, mainly because I just don't want to see it perfect. I like the bloated nature of the Empire. I don't want to improve it. There is room for it, though. I'm not saying there isn't. I just don't want to see it.
Yeah. I want my cookies too. Yeah.
Shh.
I know.
All right. Movie of the week, Don.
I took The Expendables.
Good beer and pretzels game there.
Exactly. But no, I kind of get razzed because I usually pick like 80s movies apparently. And I didn't even think about it. But a couple people have razzed me a little bit. So I picked something semi-new. Expendables, tweak it however you want. Instead of like a elite mercenary force, they're, a group of people cobbled together by the rebellion or by a corporation or some person of interest to get them to go off and do something. You can tweak it however you want. The basic idea is that it's just a good time and lots of explosions and guns and machismo. Good time.
What do Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd have in common?
They're both fat.
Oh, hello. I was referring more to Spies Like Us.
Oh, my bad. So sad.
You say you go to the 80s so much. I went to the 80s and brought out Spies Like Us. The players are part of a bumbling Rebel Alliance spy group. And their job is to, they basically are assigned to work a single planet, get intelligence on it, and figure out a way to liberate it from Imperial control. Through a series of hilarious disasters, they come into their own and not only cast aside becoming spies, but they become heroes in their own right.
Definitely. I actually remember that movie. It wasn't too bad at all.
No, not at all. It was great Cold War hijinks.
How about this one? How about a movie that you watched that can't be made into a Star Wars adventure?
A movie I watched that can't be made into a Star Wars?
I got one because I just saw it last night with the wife and kid.
Oh, that's horrible. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get IQ points back from it. 16 Candles. Can't make that into a Star Wars adventure.
Dong, where is my automobile?
Yeah. Bad. Boy, I can't remember. I don't even remember if I liked that when I was in school when it first came out, but even now it's just like, It's just one of those examples of cult of personality where a group of people become really popular for teenagers regardless of their ability to act or anything else, and throw them up on a movie screen and let people spend their summer-earned cash.
You didn't expect us to really go into a movie review, did you?
Nah, these aren't reviews, they're just opinions. They're like most things.
We've reached the end of this podcast, and of course, in closing, we'd like to ask you to love us, to talk to us, because we get lonely.
He gets lonely, I don't.
Send your questions, queries, posers, comments to Twitter at SWD6Podcast. You can email us at shootingwomprats@gmail.com. And there is a subreddit out there. It's not doing very well. I can't keep up with it, but it's SWD6.
Are we actually getting posts?
That's a good question. I can't tell.
Nah, me neither. I've been sick. That's my excuse. I'm sticking with it.
And, of course, you're going back into Imperial study after this because they have to know how a human can be so ill and still live.
I tell you what, guys, I don't know about people in the rest of the country, but here in mid-America, it sucks. Everybody's sick. So I'm sick, wife's sick, kids sick, people at work are sick, blah, 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 ad nauseum. Anyway, hoping everybody else is safe. All right.
On behalf of Shooting Womp Rats, I'm Daniel.
I'm Don.
May the Force be with you.
Have a great weekend, kids.